Oh yes, we on. What's going on, you guys? It's your girl, Tatiana Vixen. Yeah, that's her name. And today we're doing a Fatty University special that I like to call Digging Deep with Tatiana Vixen. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, we are all aware of the recent allegations made by Cassie about hip-hop mogul Sean P.Diddy Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka Diddy, aka Love. I wanted to do a deep dive into it and kind of deliver a breakdown of these allegations and stories and claims being made so that you wouldn't have to. So because this involves SA and the R word and trafficking, there is a trigger warning. This may not be the video for you. First and foremost, of course, you already know I need you to like, comment, and share, and best believe I'm gonna meet you there. And if you love what I'm serving and you like how I give it, hit that subscribe button so you are always notified when I upload. Duh. Now, first and foremost, I have to unload a ton of disclaimers on you guys, so here goes. These are all allegations that were not proven to be true or false. According to our justice system, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. This was not a criminal suit. This was a civil suit. So there was never an intention to charge Diddy with any crime. Like I said before, this is a trigger warning. Some of the details can be triggering to some of us, traumatic, so this may not be the video for you. So again, I decided to go through the entire 35-page document detailing all of the alleged crimes that took place during her dating P. Diddy. You can leave your comments below and discuss how you feel about that and kind of digest it. Okay, so first and foremost, this was not a criminal court case. This was a civil suit. They wasn't aiming to get him to go to jail. This was always about being compensated. I would say that that was a smart move on Cassie's end, because if OJ can get away with, surely P. Diddy can get away with, Cassie's team played it very smooth and said, you know what, we're gonna get him in a silver suit first. And it worked in their favor because it didn't have to be upgraded to criminal court, because guess what? He settled. She was asking for $30 million. I'm pretty sure Cassie ain't take nothing less than $10 million. With that being said, according to the document, it was Cassandra Ventur versus Sean P. Diddy Combs, Bad Boy Records, oh yes, Bad Boy Entertainment, Epic Records, DOE Corporation, and Bad Boy Enterprise LLC. She and her legal team went after basically all of his businesses, which was a smart move because a lot of the things that she's alleging that took place is also connected to her music career. It's connected to, of course, their relationship as him being her manager or him being the label that she signed to. So yes, it made sense for her to not only just go after Sean Combs, the person, but also the business. So by the time you get to page 6, we come across this title called Factual Allegations. Factual Allegations is just the title. Under Factual Allegations, there's 8 chapters, you guys. Under these 8 chapters, it goes into specific details of exactly what Diddy did. I'm not gonna read every single detail because we'd be here forever, but the things that definitely stood out to me. So let's dive in it. Chapter 1, teenage Miss Ventura meets middle-aged Mr. Combs as her career begins. It says that Diddy met Cassie when she was 19 years old and he was 37. That is almost a 2-decade age gap. When they met, Diddy was still with Kim Porter And Cassie also herself had a boyfriend. Within months of meeting each other, Diddy signed Cassie. But if we all know Diddy, we know that some of his contracts are a little iffy. She was signed to a 10 album contract, which means while signed to Bad Boys, she would have to put out 10 albums. I don't know about you, maybe I'm naive, but I've never heard of that, ever. With that being said, when Cassie came out with her first album, it debuted at number 4 on the top 100 billboards, which I think is amazing. I don't remember that, but okay, Cassie, good for you. With that success, Diddy then began to get a little too involved in not only Cassie's career, but also her personal life. For her 21st birthday, Diddy shows up to Las Vegas where her birthday was being held. He comes with a slew of celebrities, kind of like throwing his power around, but he comes unannounced. Cassie had a boyfriend at the time. I don't think she was interested in Diddy like that, but yet here he is, unannounced in Vegas, partying with the young kids. So at this time, that means he was almost 40. Cassie then alleges that night Diddy forced her into a hotel bathroom and tried to forcefully kiss her. She manages to push him off. She says she ran out the bathroom crying. She told her best friend, and they never really spoke about it ever again. We then reach chapter 2. Mr. Combs lures Miss Ventura into a relationship. It then begins to start going over how aggressively P. Diddy pursued Cassie. Allegedly, Diddy would force Cassie to go on these luxurious dates with him, and she kind of feared like if she didn't do it, that it would affect her music career. Remember, she's very early in her music career right now, so she doesn't want to do anything to mess it up. Even then, and still is, Diddy was a powerful man. Cassie then also says around this time, he introduced her allegedly to drugs. One day, he told her to take a pill. She asked him several times, like, what is this? He didn't really tell her, just made her take it. He said it was gonna make you feel good. She later learned that that pill was ecstasy. Cassie also alleged that Diddy would get people to make fake flyers of like parties or hostings that she had to do so that she would leave her boyfriend and go to these places only to be met by P. Diddy. One time he had a flyer made saying that she had to do a hosting at a club in Miami. And she leaves her boyfriend in New York and comes to Miami to do this hosting, possibly promote her music. And when she gets there, it's Diddy just making her stay in his mansion in Miami for that entire weekend. There was no party, there was no club, there was nothing. You gotta keep in mind, at this time, she's still dating. She still has a boyfriend. They wasn't romantically involved, so you asking me to come to stay in your mansion for the weekend is weird. Then we get to chapter 3. Mr. Combs exerts control over Miss Ventura's career and personal life. So within knowing each other for 2 years, Cassie and Diddy then began to officially date. This is when things really got turned up a notch. He allegedly paid for everything. He started paying for her Manhattan apartment. He started paying for her apartment in Cali, which was only 2 blocks away from his house. Airfare, makeup, hair, outfits, everything was paid for. She never had to lift a finger. This to some people may sound fabulous. Oh, she was living the life of luxury. It also was a way that he controlled her. He had complete control of her entire life. He picked those makeup artists. He picked those hairstylists. He even bought her a Jaguar. This just meant all this that you have, I can take from you. It also meant that he knew what she was doing, where she was doing it, who she was doing it with, what time they left, what time they came. He knew every aspect of her life. Cassie's legal team alleged that Diddy also was getting her medical records sent directly to his email. They're not married. She's not incoherent or unable to speak for herself. She's not a minor. So for him to be getting her medical records made absolutely no sense. I would love to know, okay, who's the doctor doing that? Because they too should be sued. So this stood out to me and it was very weird, but Cassie alleged that Diddy asked her, what do you call your grandfather? And she said, oh, I call him Papa. And moving forward, Diddy insisted that Cassie called him Pop Pop. Like, he wanted her to call him that. Weird. Now you're my boyfriend, where I'm assuming we're sleeping with each other. I'm not about to call you Pop Pop. We then get to chapter 4. Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura's relationship becomes abusive and violent. In this chapter, it got very detailed. It was lengthy, so I kind of really had to look through it and pull the things that I thought were the most like craziest. So in the chapter, it alleges that over the 10-year span that they were dating, Diddy would treat this girl merciless. Cassie alleged that Diddy used to her so bad that he would have to then go through great lengths to hide her from the public, and that included sending her away to different little hotels, basically trapping her. She wasn't allowed to leave. He would not allow it. Cassie recalled a situation where after a New Year's Eve party in New York thrown by Jay-Z, for whatever reason, Diddy was beating her so bad in an Escalade on the way home that it got to a point where he threw her out the car on 5th Avenue, and she hailed a cab and went to her New York apartment, and she hid for 3 days. She was that scared. So now this next story to me was just crazy. Cassie then alleges in a club in LA, Diddy got so angry at her because she was talking to another manager. I guess she was looking for another management. And Diddy got so mad at her for talking to this manager in the club that on the ride home, he was on her face and with his foot while they were in the car. By the time they got home and the car door opened, Cassie says that she tried to make a run for it. She literally tried to run away for her life, and Diddy caught her and started stomping in her face again. It got to the point that his own security had to try to stop him. Like, he was just raging. She tried to escape him, and she alleges that he and his security catches her and drags her into his mansion and beats her more. In the documents, he beats her so bad that he had to send her to the London hotel in LA for a week because she looked that bad. At one point while in the hotel, she even asked him if she could just go see her mother, and he said no. But throughout the week, every day, he's sending gifts to her hotel room, bracelets and jewelry and flowers and all these, things that we would think, oh my gosh, how romantic. But for her, it was just, I'm looking at this with black eyes and a busted lip. So then we move on to one of the lengthiest chapters, which was chapter 5, titled Mr. Combs then forces Mrs. Ventura into trafficking. This was a very interesting chapter for me because it kind of introduced you into the world of high celebrity play and what some are possibly into. This was a surprising kink. In the chapter, Cassie alleged that Diddy introduced her to voyeurism. If you don't know, voyeurism is when you enjoy being watched, whether it be in a public place, whether it be in your bedroom, long as there's praying eyes watching you. According to Cassie's documents, Diddy was not the one who wanted to be watched. No, he wanted to be the watcher. And so that meant they had to introduce someone into the bedroom. Throughout the decade of her messing with him, several different male prostitutes, male escorts, models, and that was his thing. Cassie says the very first time he kind of introduced her to it, he told her, and I quote, "It would turn him on to see her with another." Yeah, just like that. In Cassie's court documents, she claims that the very first time they ever did it, Cassie alleges that Diddy was in full control, even though he wasn't the person actually doing anything. He was telling them what to do, how to do it, where to touch, where not to touch, suck, spit, rub, this position, that position. He had full control. It was literally like he was watching, but he was in control of what he wanted the people involved to do. Moving forward, this did not stop. People, this was not a one-off type of thing or a once-a-year type of thing. This was a daily thing that was happening all the time. Cassie alleged that Diddy had a name for them. They were called freak-offs. or FO. And she said at any time of any day, Diddy would either whisper to her or tell her, you know, I want to have a FO. I want an FO. And at this point, she was then expected to hire the escort, get the hotel, set the day and time. Like, this now was her job. For me, and I'm no expert, I'm no therapist, but I definitely can see the mental aspect of that, because it was him saying, look, you're in control. You get to pick the time, place, day, person. You're in control. But she's really not, because if she had the choice to not do it at all, I'm pretty sure that's what she would have went with. After a while, Cassie says that Diddy allegedly started wanting her to go on certain websites to look for men. He would tell her that type in Big Black, BBC, he wanted all of that. That's what she specifically had to request. He even at one point wanted her to wear white fingernails whenever they had their freak offs, because he liked the contrast of her white fingernails on a BBC, how it looked. The most telling part for me was when Cassie's legal team stated that this wasn't a, you know, like one-man show, this wasn't a two-man show. Because what you gotta understand is when you're hiring these escorts, someone coming from out of town, out of state, they needed airfare paid for. They needed their hotel stay paid for. It's Diddy's staff who allegedly is paying for the hotels and speaking to this person and that person. So this is a whole operation. That's why this is called trafficking. Cassie even alleged that one time Diddy got so drunk that he smacked her in front of the escort. And I'm sure that caused a whole lot of more mental trauma than physical. Cassie also said that on her 29th birthday, Diddy wanted a freak off. Whispered in her ear at the party, I want to have a freak off tonight. She wasn't feeling it. She didn't want to do it. No, I'm not with that tonight. Unfortunately, that wasn't her choice. Cassie says that allegedly Diddy and his security cornered her and forced her to leave the party. He wanted that to happen, and it did. She had to have a freak off on her birthday. The document goes further and says that after the freak off, Diddy takes her back to her hotel where some of her friends were hanging out. He was super duper drunk. One thing led to another, and one of Cassie's friends ends up hanging over the 17th floor balcony by the hands of Diddy and his security, allegedly. I found this story super duper interesting and crazy because when all this stuff was coming out with Diddy, there's a young man that tells this story. That's in the documents. Oh, and this is where it gets better. The friend is allegedly rap artist Wale. What? Now, what's crazy is the story that I heard, it wasn't a hotel, it was a studio. The stories are just similar though. Super duper similar. Then here we are at chapter 6. Miss Ventura tries to escape Mr. Combs' abuse. This chapter, I would say, was the most heartbreaking. When I was reading it, I literally could feel myself getting a little teared up. This girl who's had so much life just sucked out of her and still trying to smile or enjoy the luxuries of life. But how can you do that when the person who's providing this beautiful lifestyle is also the person that is mentally and physically draining you? In this chapter, you know, Cassie does state that she tried to escape, not leave, escape many times, and he and his staff would lure her back in. It wasn't a one-man operation. Diddy, his staff, they would all like literally harass her. She says in 2011, she did get a break from him. They was on a rough patch and they wasn't together, and she began dating Kid Cudi. That didn't work out. She and Diddy ended up getting back together in 2012. Allegedly, he went through her phone. He saw some past text messages between she and Kid Cudi. This enraged him. He threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car. Surprise, surprise, 2012, during Fashion Week, Kid Cudi's car exploded. Did Diddy do it? Who's to say? Cassie also alleged that one time Diddy up so bad that he left her with 2 black eyes, and his own assistant and head of security were crying at the sight of her. She also alleged that another time. Now this story really mind-blown me because it shows you the power of money. Cassie states that allegedly in 2016, after yet another freak-off, Diddy was passed out drunk. She tried to make a run for it. When she tried to make a run for it, this woke Diddy up, who then began to chase her. She says that because this was like a luxury hotel and all that, it had these glass vases. She says he started throwing them at her. And they were breaking on her. She was still able to manage getting on the elevator and going downstairs. She runs out the hotel. She hails a cab, telling him to take her to her LA apartment. However, that Stockholm Syndrome kicks in, and if you don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is, it's when the victim feels sorry for their abuser or has a sense of empathy for them. And so while she's in the cab, she's thinking to herself, geez, he's going to be super upset. I should just go back to the hotel and apologize. Again, she's going to an apartment in LA that he's paying for. He has access to it. So you're not really getting away. So she tells the cab to turn around and she decides to go back to the hotel. When she gets to the hotel staff tells her, go home. Do not go back up there. The staff of the hotel seen the hotel hallway footage of Diddy grabbing her, on her, throwing those glass vases allegedly on her, and they feared for her life. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why is he not in jail? They got video, staff saw it, there's witnesses. Allegedly, Diddy paid the hotel staff $50,000 to give him the hotel footage, and it never seen the light of day. Cassie states that there was even a time that she flew to Florida and hid away at a friend's house, and that entire time her phone was ringing nonstop. Diddy's calling her, his staff is calling her, the label is calling her. She even says at one point Diddy had his lawyer call her and tell her it would be in your best interest to go back. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? We then reach chapter 7, which is the shortest chapter, but definitely the most heartbreaking. The chapter is titled, Mr. Combs' Our Words, Miss Ventura. This chapter details one instance. It wasn't like several, it was just one situation. Cassie alleges that in 2018, September 2018, in New York City, Cassie and Diddy went out to eat for dinner. This was not a lovely date. They were there to discuss their breakup. After dinner, she and Diddy went to her apartment. I believe maybe he was dropping her off. Instead of just dropping her off and leaving, he started to force himself into her apartment. Cassie alleges that Diddy got into her apartment, started undoing her clothing, ripping her clothing off, unbuckling his belt, and forcefully kissing her. And of course, you can imagine the rest. This situation seemed to be the last straw for Cassie. Cassie returned the Jaguar that he bought her. She moved out of both apartments that he was paying for, and she started taking steps to get out of her contract with Bad Boy Entertainment and Bad Boy Records. She was definitely serious this time and completely just fed up. This man had taken everything from her. He had controlled everything. And now while she gained the strength to leave, you want to break her down one more time in one of the most physical and disrespectful ways. I certainly, when reading this, was so proud of her. Literally, the documents, you're literally watching this entire timeline from the time she was 19 years old to now her early 30s. Diddy has taken her entire 20s from her. She is supposed to be having fun and growing a singing career. She's cooped up with this 40-plus-year-old man. Yes, I'm pretty sure there were good times as far as trips and money and expensive things, but the price she paid for it was not worth it. And this leads us to chapter 8, which is titled, Mr. Combs' Abuse and Physical Harm Has Caused Miss Ventura Lifelong Harm. In the document, Cassie states that after leaving Diddy, she of course suffered from drug and alcohol addiction. She suffered from nightmares of, being by the hands of him, a form of PTSD. She struggled bad with just like knowing who she was. She had to reinvent herself. She had to check herself into rehab, inpatient, and started to build her life back up. Cassie also states that her 2 children gave her a new lease on life. She's doing way better. It just took me by surprise because you see the glitz, you see the glamour, but you never know exactly what somebody's going through. At the end of the document, it also states that Cassie and her legal team put in 8 causes of action. This is because these crimes took place in not only New York, but also California. They're doing it for both states. These causes of actions included gender discrimination, workplace violence, gender motivated violence, battery, violating the California Trafficking Victims Protection, violating the New York Trafficking Victims Protection, and so on and so forth. Of course, we all learned, when this first hit the blogs, that she was seeking $30 million in damages, a very high number, and they settled out of court. If I'm seeking $30 million, I ain't taking no less than 10. She took the settlement, and I'm assuming she's paid right now. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for sitting here with me, and hopefully we can not have to do this again. But if we do, I'm here to dig deep and tell you the details. I need you to like, comment, and share, and you already know I'm gonna meet you there. Leave some comments, let's discuss this. If y'all know anything more or want to add something, go right ahead. I know my voice sounds raspy because I'm super tired. If you or anyone you know are experiencing domestic violence, please don't ever hesitate to reach out for help. There is help. I'm going to list at the bottom of my video and in my bio hotlines that you can call. Please guys, don't let this go on. I will see you in the next video. Bye.